Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Agnes Chan, and our guest tonight is Dr. Agnes Chan, who is a renowned singer, having sold more than 10 million records in Asia. She is a household name in Hong Kong and in Japan, and will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of her debut with a concert here in Hong Kong next week. But as some of us know, she is a woman of many talents, not just a singer, but also a writer, a professor, a showbiz celebrity, active in public service, and of course, mother of 3 boys. We have invited here tonight to share with us how to thrive as a woman in the 21st century. Welcome, Agnes.
Thank you, Eugene.
Agnes, it gives me such a great pleasure to have you here tonight, because every time when I think of your name, I think of your famous song, Circle Game. Also, the more recent one is Hong Kong, Hong Kong. Yes. That is written to commemorate the handover of Hong Kong, and yes, the lyrics are very touching. And you have done 50 years of great work, and it's definitely not easy, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure our viewers would like to know more about your life as a woman in Japan. There must be challenges, because you were only 17, going to Japan in the early 70s, and you are there not to study, but to make a career by yourself, no friends and support. But you have charmed many Japanese fans and become a superstar there. Then you marry a Japanese husband, integrated well into society. Not to mention, in 2018, you were decorated by the Emperor with the honor of Order of the Rising Sun. We know that Japan is quite a closed society, and how was it like living there as a foreigner?
Well, when I was young, I actually didn't recognize any kind of discrimination.
Right.
Or, the role between a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. But it was after I got married, mm-hmm, and I had my first son, and I brought him to work.
Right.
Because I was very busy,
yes,
and then everybody requested me to go back to work, and I was breastfeeding, mm-hmm, so I brought my son. And then it raised one of the biggest controversy in Japanese feminist history, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, called the Agnes controversy. Yeah. And basically it's about whether a woman, after she's married and have a child, should go back to work, mm-hmm, or should work at all. Right. We like to call Japan as a role-perfect society. Right. Like everybody has his or her own role. Mm-hmm. So if you're a man, you act like a man. If you're a woman, you act like a woman. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of expectations. Mm-hmm. And so some of the expectations is to, like, for example, when you walk with your husband, you walk 3 steps behind him. Okay. If people don't ask for your opinions, you don't talk. Really? Yes. And you don't contradict anything your husband says, right, unless you really want to, make him angry, especially in front of his friends. Okay. So all kinds of expectations are there. It's mm-hmm, not set, mm-hmm, but mm-hmm, everybody knows. Since you mentioned the term Agnes controversy, just for the viewers' interest, actually Agnes, the name, becomes the most popular name in that period. Right. Yes. It was elected to be one of the most popular, yes, phrases. So basically, I know Japan and Hong Kong, we have some similarities, but a lot of cultural differences. How do you work in as a Hong Kong girl, going there by yourself, married into a Japanese family? How do you find it? As I said before, when I was single, right, I didn't felt it. But after I got married, and then I have to be a wife, everything seems to change. So I really have to find my own road, mm-hmm, to pursue my career and also have a family. Mm-hmm. Because people would say that you're wanting too much. So but I want the younger generation of Japanese ladies to be, mm-hmm, able to, mm-hmm, pursue their career, to fulfill their potential, at the same time be a mother and have a family. Mm-hmm. And so I try to compromise in some ways, but I don't compromise in other ways, so that my career can go on, mm-hmm, but at the same time I can spend time with my sons. Mm-hmm. Since you mentioned, the cultural differences, it's kind of more male-dominated society, but after the Agnes controversy, how does the men in Japan take this newcomer to the society? How do they take you? Well, many of them were against me. They think that I'm going to mess up the minds of their women. Right. Have you? I think so. Not messed up, but I think I pushed them a little forward. Things, yes. And there's been laws implemented, legislation changed. First is the the Equal Opportunity and Equal Employment Act for Men and Women.
Right.
So another one is maternity leave.
Right.
So women, after they give birth, now men also, after they have a child, they can take leave. So before that, if you marry somebody in the same company, or you get married simply, the company can fire you. And even if you enter in the same period and you have the same qualifications, you pay less. You get less pay. So, but now it's against the law. So I think this is a big improvement.
Right.
But the law is one thing, but custom is customs. So it's still very difficult because Japanese women, they do 80% of the housework, 80% of the child rearing, and almost all the caring for the old.
Right.
So they are the caregiver. But they're also, because of the low fertility rate right now in Japan, two little children, so they want to encourage the women to have children. But they also want to encourage the women to join the workforce because there's not enough working people. So they want to push the Japanese women to be superwomen, work, and then also have children and take care of the old, take care of the family, do all the housework.
Maybe you have set too high a level for them to meet, because apart from being a singer, you're a writer, a professor, and also a lot of public services. You're a UNICEF ambassador. I was reading, I'm totally amazed at what you have done. So how do you juggle all these amongst raising up 3 boys? It's not 3 kids, it's 3 boys. How do you do that?
My advice to young parents, especially women, is not to aim for to be perfect. Just set your priorities. Like for me, my priority is my children. So I want them to be healthy.
Right.
I want them to eat well. I want them to be happy and curious.
Right.
So my house is basically not very clean.
Oh.
Okay. And I don't iron my children's clothes. So those things I give up.
Do you have a domestic helper helping you in Japan?
That is one of the biggest problems in Japan, is domestic worker is very rare and very, very expensive.
Right.
They do not accept laborers from other countries.
Oh.
What they call simple laborers, like not with special skills. So it's
that means a household chores. You have to do the cleaning,
yes, we have to
vacuuming,
do everything.
and all that as well.
Yes, yes.
And you have a husband and 3 boys. Do they help you?
Oh yes, you have. In order to balance between career and family, you have to train everybody in the family to be independent and helpful, and be happy to help you.
Right.
So this is a big challenge, but you have to train them early. That way, they will be independent and they help around the house.
A lady in Japan is kind of, we have a different, view of them at home and outside. At outside, they're really submissive, they're behind. At home, they are actually the queen.
Some people say that.
Oh, they say that too.
But actually, I think many women, they prefer to just lead their own lives.
Okay.
In a way, like if the husband doesn't come back early, they go out to drink, it's fine with them.
Okay.
They just feel more comfortable just raising the children.
So, yes, Agnes, you have 3 boys. As I said, for those who have kids, they know having 3 boys is definitely not as easy having 3 girls. So, and I'm sure, although you said you don't push them, but they have done very well. They all went to Stanford, a very famous university in the world, and it's a great testament of what you have trained them to be. And you have also written a couple books on parenting. I'm going to read it out. 50 education methods and 10 things you must not do to educate children. Maybe can you feel some tips of the essence of those 2 books to our viewers? What do you think are the most important things a parent must remember?
I think the first thing is not to compare your child with other children, because you need to build a high self-esteem for your child. And for self-esteem, it doesn't mean that to be proud or things like that, but to have a healthy self-esteem means that he accepts himself as he is, and he knows that he has qualities to thrive in the world. So that way you have to give them unconditional love, and then you have to accept your child.
Right.
Don't say that, oh, your brother can do this, so why can't you do this, or things like that.
So
Don't compare. Don't compare.
Don't compare, first thing.
Yes. And then the other one is you have to teach him how to find himself, to search for his own identity. For identity, I mean like, why am I here? Where am I going? Who am I?
Okay.
Help them to answer these 3 questions.
Identity, yeah.
Identity. And then the last thing I think is tell them that, everything that's worth doing is worth doing well.
Okay.
So any chances that come by your way and you think that it is a good chance, just do your best.
Okay.
don't mind whether you get rewarded for it, because the reward will come later.
Yeah, and I read in your interview earlier, you don't have to tell lies, right?
Right.
That's an important one.
Yes, because children will sometimes try to tell lies for for a lot of reasons.
Right.
But one lie being told, then another lie will have to be told to cover that up.
Right.
So I always tell my children that you don't need to tell lies. I'm not saying that you must not tell lies. It's either you don't need to tell lies. The reason is because mother loves you, mama loves you.
Right, and before we go to the break, I want to ask you a very simple question. With COVID, the children are spending more time at home and their parents are with them. Do you think this has a positive or negative effect on the relationship?
I think it should be a positive one,
Right.
if you handle it correctly.
If you handle it correctly.
Yes, really treasure the time with your children because they grow up so fast.
Right.
In the blink of an eye, they're out of the house.
Okay.
So take it as a blessing that they're around the house more with COVID.
Right.
It will make your father and mother and children relationship much better.
All right, okay. And let's take a break and don't go away. Welcome back. We have been talking with Agnes Chan, who is not just a singer well known to many of us, but also a writer on parenting and childhood education. So Agnes, I understand that you have a Doctor of Philosophy, a PhD from Stanford University. You've been writing a lot of books on parenting, which is your passion. And I also know that you have studied our Hong Kong system, the education system, a while ago. And if I ask you very briefly, what do you think of our Hong Kong education system? It used to be called a kind of a Peking duck type of education, but with stuffing things into it. Do you agree?
I agree. I actually agree. And I think it's a little old-fashioned.
Right.
The reason is because Hong Kong's education is, the target is to pass DSE.
Right.
It's called the Diploma of Secondary Education.
Yes.
But actually that's not, because it's actually an entrance examination to the 8 universities.
Right.
So there's 2 types of exams. One is an exit exam, one is an entrance exam. The exit exam is a graduation exam. So after 12 years of schooling, people will give you a test to test if you have the general idea of what you have learned. So this kind of exit exam should be not tricky. We aim for like maybe 80% of them get passed.
Right.
But if in an entrance exam, for example, the DSE is actually an entrance exam because
For the universities.
Yes, 60% of the children will not be able to enter the universities. And so only 40% can.
Right.
So what happened is that exam has to be difficult because not enough space. So the exam is also tricky. So in a way, that's not a graduation exam. It's not an exit exam, it's an entrance exam.
Okay.
But it's compulsory.
Okay.
So even if you don't want to go into that university, you have to go through that exam. But there's a high probability that you'll be among the 60% of failures, what they called.
Right.
So you're pushing children to be failures. And so the parents are very anxious. They don't want their child to be among the 60%. They want the child to be the 40%, among the 40%.
If not the top 10%.
I know, and so the teachers too. They don't want their students to be failures, and the children too. So the whole system is built under this pressure cooker. So the pressure is very high, so the parents, once their child is born, they were thinking, which kindergarten must I let him in? Should I put him into classes? Oh, I have to get some good relationships so that I can get him into a better school. All aimed for this DSE.
That sounds very familiar.
Right?
Yes.
So that's exactly what the parents are doing right now, and I think it is not productive. I think the DSE can be, I don't think the DSE should be compulsory.
Okay.
Have them have maybe a graduation exam, or maybe not even a graduation exam. Let them graduate, and for the people who want to go into the JUPAS system or the 8 universities, take the DSE. The other children, they can think about other things. They can become an accountant, they can become a nurse, they can become a makeup artist, they can become a photographer, whatever they want to become. Not everybody has to go into the higher education system. So if they have the choice to take or not take, it will facilitate the conversation at home. Maybe during high school, the parent would say, do you want to take the SE?
Right.
You know.
Right, Agnes, everything has two sides to a coin. You have just mentioned one of the apparent weakness of it. But the strength of it is all our Hong Kong students are so equipped that when you go overseas to study, we all do very well. So do you think that is a good side product of it?
Oh, this is definitely something good. I mean, the students, they may be high level education level, but in the coming world, in the future, AI system or IT development is so fast. The world is already not looking for people who can do well in tests, because you cannot fight AI. They remember better, they never forget, and they can have 100% every time. So if we train the students to be just good students, that's not enough anymore. For the most important or the most high-ranked universities in the world, what they're looking for is not high marks anymore. They're looking for creativity, they're looking for passion, they're looking for specialty. So your child has to have a passion, something that he really likes to do all his life. And he's already an expert, although he may be 7 years old.
Right.
He knows about all the trains, or maybe all the clocks, or all the dinosaurs, or whatever. But he has to have a passion, and he has to be creative, think out of the box. He must have something that the computer cannot think of, that data can't tell you. So we have to train students like that, not students that do good in exams.
Right. Agnes, I heard in the news that you had a chat with our Chief Executive, Mrs. Carol Lam. Did you mention this to her at all?
Oh, yes, yes.
Right.
And I think I've given up a book called 40 Methods, Proposals for Changing the Hong Kong Education System. And I think some of them are actually being put into practice. And I'm very happy about that.
Right, yes. Just now, the earlier part, we talked about the COVID. Another side effect of COVID is normal schooling has been interrupted all over the world. I would say, a generation, it's nearly 2 years now. So what do you think this effect is going to have? Will our children be sort of more creative, more self-disciplined, or the other way around?
This is very hard to say. We still have to see. But we already see a lot of very negative influences, especially in the developing world. Through UNICEF, we know that we have to convince the parents to send the children to school.
Right.
And because they think that they should work in the farm or they should work around the house or something like that. But with COVID, with the school stops, they take all the children back into home. Now, when the school year starts, 30% of the children are not coming back. Either they're afraid of COVID or they're not coming back for good.
Right.
So a lot of our good work, we have to start all over again. So for the COVID influence on the education of children is not only in the developed world. In the developing world, the negative influence is even bigger.
Really? Right, and maybe we move on to what we all talk about apart from AI is technology. I mean, like all the developed schools, they have a country school, they have laptop in the classes.
Yes.
So people are very familiar with the computers, much more than our generation does.
Right.
I hesitated because thinking whether we're the same generation. And I know that in the mainland now, they have a new ruling on gaming saying that every week you can't spend more than 3 hours on the gaming. Is that a good thing?
I think it's in the good direction because gaming addiction is a real problem.
Right.
Like, because if you spend so much time on gaming, you lose the chance to go out and play. And so your physical development and even your brain development is going to be in part, not in part, but negative influences on it. Not only your eyes, your hearing, but really the structure of your brain changes a little bit. And then social development will also be, lack of that. So it is in a good direction. But it is a very drastic policy.
Right.
So, but I think there will be adjustment, but I think it's in the right direction.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, there are other initiatives by the mainland government as well. You were mentioning to me earlier before the show.
Right.
You can share with the viewers.
Very ambitious. First of all, they are saying that for grade 1, grade 2, no paper tests, no homework. Okay, and then for other grades too, half of the homework. You can't give children too much homework.
Right.
And then they say that, okay, we're going to try and ban all the after-school classes, like the classes that you pay money, for example, tutoring and cram school. And that is like banning the commercialization of education. And that is also, I think, in a good direction. And then another one they're trying out is the rotation of teachers. As we know that, the school is as good as the teachers. If the good teachers in the school or good principals in the school would be good.
Right.
So some of them are concentrated in some districts, and people would fight so hard to live in that district to get in that school. But they are rotating the teachers. They try to rotate the teachers so that the level of the primary school or the middle school can be more balanced. This has actually been done in Japan. It's very successful. And if Inland does that too, I think it's very good.
Right. Agnes, I know that you have a special interest for early childhood education. We haven't got a lot of time left. Can you tell the viewers a couple of points that they must remember if they're going to start a family or just having a young family? What would you say to them?
Children is a blessing, so don't be too anxious or care about what people think about the way you raise your child. Believe in yourself. Even our parents, they didn't have any kind of child psychology or education theories. We turned out fine. So the thing is to believe in yourself, really love your children. Children do not expect you to be perfect, but they expect you to love them and care for them. So as long as you do that and build up their basic self-esteem and confidence, you'll be fine.
Right. And as you know, maybe up to you, because of your advice, our Education Bureau last week had to introduce a curriculum framework on parent education. Basically, they are education activities for parents of kindergartens and age children to equip them with knowledge and skills. Is that a good direction?
Perfect direction. Well, the implementation may be not so perfect, but it's also in my book.
Oh, really?
Among the 40 proposals, that we have to bring education back to the home. And we have to not only educate the parents, we have to educate the caretakers, like our Filipino maids, our Indonesian maids, our grandparents. If we can put that scheme into the community, I'm sure children will have a much happier childhood, and they will have the basic skills and the brain power to propel them successfully in life.
Right, Agnes, thank you for telling us about education, but I'm going to ask you a very personal question.
Yes.
You have been a Hong Kong girl that I'm very proud to be associated with you. You went to Japan, made your name. You have a Japanese family now. Where do you call home?
The home is where the heart is.
Right.
I think it belongs to the people that I love.
Okay. So thank you, Agnes. It has been such a pleasure to have you with us, and congratulations again. And I'm sure your success will be an inspiration to all of us in Hong Kong. And thank you for joining us. Have a good week and good night.